Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, you know, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
Your Honor, I didn't come here today just to hear a verdict. I came to speak my truth. The papers in front of you, they say I'm a monster, that I used people, manipulated them, hurt them, but, Your Honor, has anyone stopped to ask what they did to me? I lifted people up. I gave them a life they never even dreamed of. People with nothing. I gave them a seat at my table. I didn't just share my success. I built theirs with my own 2 hands, and all I ever asked in return was loyalty. But look at me now. The same people I fed, clothed, protected. They're sitting in this courtroom, pointing their fingers like I never meant a thing to them. Like I wasn't the one who gave them everything they have. Cassie, I loved her. I gave her $500,000 every month. No questions asked. Not because she asked for it, but because I wanted her to live easy, to feel safe, to never struggle. I treated her like royalty. And now, she's here, testifying against me.
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse, in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there.
Your Honor, you know what hurts the most? Not the headlines, not the cameras, not even these cold courtroom walls. What hurts is the silence. The silence of people I thought were my brothers, the ones I gave everything to. And when I fell, they vanished. They ain't victims. They were right there next to me, in the same parties, in the same rooms, with the same access, the same pleasures, the same power. But when the fire came, I was the only one left burning. You really think I did all this alone? No, Your Honor, this industry, this whole machine, it's built on secrets, on favors, on silence. And now they're all standing here like saints? Like they didn't take the same money, drink the same champagne, dance at the same parties? I'm not saying I was perfect, but I wasn't the only one in the room. I showed them love. Real love. I shared everything I had. and now they act like they don't know me, like I'm some monster they just read about in the news.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first. I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual. It may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, you know, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now, but I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down in that courtroom.
But ask yourself this, Your Honor. If I was so evil, why'd they stay so long? Why'd they keep coming back? Why'd they keep cashing the checks? Because the truth is, they loved the lifestyle more than they ever loved me. Now that I'm stripped of everything, the money, the power, the spotlight, they don't see a man anymore. They see a headline, a scapegoat. But I will say this before I leave this stand. If I'm guilty, then they're not innocent. If I was wrong, then they weren't right. I didn't sin alone, so don't crown them as saints. This world wasn't dirty because of me. These so-called witnesses, these so-called victims, they were never pure to begin with. I may be alone today, but I'm not the only one with blood on my hands. A packed federal courtroom in New York City holds its breath. Cassie Ventura, the woman who shook the music world with explosive allegations against Sean Diddy Combs, is back on the stand. Today marked a pivotal moment in the trial. Cassie, Diddy's former girlfriend of over a decade, was grilled under oath by the defense. Her explosive testimony last week painted Diddy as a violent, manipulative figure. But now, his legal team is fighting back. Defense attorney Anna Esteveo came in swinging, accusing Cassie of jealousy, control issues, and voluntary participation in the very events she called abuse. One of the most disturbing aspects of Cassie's testimony involved what she called freak-offs, alleged sex parties organized by Diddy with escorts, cameras, and control. The defense challenged her claims, suggesting she could have walked away. But Cassie didn't flinch. She said fear, blackmail, and isolation kept her locked in a toxic world behind Diddy's empire. In chilling detail, Cassie reaffirmed claims that Diddy threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car, after learning the two had a relationship. The courtroom fell silent. This wasn't just about a breakup, it was about power, paranoia, and control. Diddy faces multiple federal charges, including sex trafficking, racketeering, and coercion. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars. The trial is far from over, expected to last another 6 weeks, but today the battle lines are clear. Cassie versus Diddy, truth versus power. This is more than a courtroom drama, it's a moment of reckoning in the music industry, and the world is watching.